My name is Anna Bigham, and yes, I'm the founder of Hidden Wounds. I also stand before you today as a survivor of suicide and a proud sister of Marine Mills Bigham. There are days in your life that you will never forget, like your first kiss, your first car, or your first job. There's a day that has impacted my future, and it's a day, however, I would like to forget. That day was a Monday, October 19th, 2009. I woke up that morning, and at that time, I was a publisher in the tourism industry. I had a 9 o'clock conference call every Monday with my boss. So I woke up, I did that, and then I began trying to get in contact with my mom, my dad, and my brother, who were all in Georgia at that time. Throughout the day, throughout my work appointments as I ventured out, I never heard back from them. So I started getting curious as to why no one was being responsive to me. I returned to my home office only to find my dad's best friend, Dave, standing there waiting for me to arrive. The moment I saw him, I knew exactly what he was going to say, and I almost slammed the door in his face and told him to leave. At that time, he told me that my brother had taken his own life with a gunshot wound to his forehead. What do you do when somebody tells you that? How did I feel? I really didn't know how to react. What I did know was that the charming, happy-go-lucky, funny, jokester brother, Mills, my little brother, after he went into the Marine Corps, right out of high school, from October 2004 and 2008, he was different. He came back different. He was changed, and he wasn't the same brother and best friend that I always knew. He did 2 tours of duty in Iraq and the Marine Corps as an assaultman, and he loved it. He came back telling war stories, one of them being about his first kill, about a 12-year-old boy when another Marine yelled grenade and everyone hit the ground, that he turned around and did what he had to do, his job in the Marine Corps, and later found out by checking the boy's ID that he was 12. My brother journaled and said that he wept that night and that it was true what they say, your first kill, after your first kill, it doesn't matter, it becomes easy. To my surprise, that was only the beginning of a year-long stretch after he got out of the service in October of 2008 of his battle and struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder. One day he came to me and said, Anna, I have PTSD. Thankfully, I knew what that was. And I said, well, what are you doing? How are you dealing with it? And are you getting help for your PTSD? How badly is it bothering you? And he said, well, I started going to appointments at the VA, and they prescribed me sleeping medication. I'm having a hard time sleeping. And, it's the horror from war that's coming back and haunting me that I really don't know how to deal with. My mind goes for a roller coaster ride often. And I said, okay, well, I'm glad you're getting help, and I'm here to support you, to go with you, do anything that you need. Several weeks later, I was driving over to his house across town at 3 o'clock in the morning, picking him up in a ball in the floor. He was crying. Someone had knocked on his door or opened his door, and he picked up his gun and shot through the door. Well, I knew there was a problem. So I said, Mills, please give me all of your guns. That was my next step, and I said, let's go ahead and go to the hospital. Let's try to do something about it. Well, we went to the hospital, and he was checked out. They said he was okay and let him come home. Over the next several months, he could not hold down a job. He was getting in fights when he would go out in public, and his symptoms it seems like going up a hill, but a downward spiral at the same time. My parents had recently moved to St. Simons Island, Georgia, and I made a phone call and I said, your son is one snap away from homicide and killing an innocent person or suicide and never being here again. And I need your help. I need you to help me I've been contacting people, and it's serious. So my parents jumped on board, and I said the same thing to the medical professionals that were seeing him at the VA. He checked himself into a private hospital saying that he was struggling with post-combat stress from war and post-traumatic stress disorder, and also had suicidal tendencies. They let him go because he didn't have health insurance. He didn't opt for that decision when he got out of active duty. Well, time went by, and I was receiving calls from my neighbor saying, Anna, your brother's outside with a machete acting like he's at war. What do you want me to do? My brother, several weeks before he died, told me, Anna, please, if you go to sleep, which at that time I wasn't sleeping, I was a nervous wreck. I was fearful that he was going to take his own life in my own home after I invited him to live with me the last 3 months of his life. And he said, Anna, please put something in front of the door, so the last thing I would ever want to do is to hurt you. Around that time, looking at his face and his eyes were just black. It was like he had no soul, he had no heart. He wasn't the same person, and it was very scary. Right after my brother took his own life, I was contacted by Hannah Horn at WSTV, who was interested in doing a story on my brother and asked if my family and I would take part in that interview, and I said absolutely. I was angry. My brother served for the United States of America, was promised the help that he fought for. He didn't receive the help. He fell through the cracks with the VA being understaffed and underfunded, and gave up. He was begging for help. What happens to the military veterans who aren't begging for help or are still begging for help at the same time my brother was the thoughts that was going through my head. That interview aired about 3 weeks after my brother died. My father and I did it, and from that interview, I received a call from a good family friend and several emails in response to what I said on the interview, which was, it's my purpose in life, I know now, to try to prevent another family and another military veteran from going through what my brother went through. So I responded to the CPA that contacted me and the psychologist that contacted me and said, let's have lunch. I'll share my ideas with you, and we'll go from there. I sat down, and I told them, this is my experience, and what I would like to see happen for our military veterans is making a business, a nonprofit, something, find some way where we can treat their psychological injuries within less than 24 hours, emergency, immediate, and also be able to provide that service within 5 to 10 miles of where they live. Before I knew it, on January 1st of 2010, we had formed a nonprofit called Hidden Wounds. And our mission is to provide interim and emergency counseling services to military veterans and their families who were struggling with psychological injuries. The way that we do that is we have a network of counselors. We developed a network of counselors. We're partnered with Give an Hour, which is a national nonprofit that provides hours of counseling and psychiatric service to military veterans nationwide. We also partnered with several psychological associations in South Carolina and surrounding states. This way, we are able, if the veteran, active duty military personnel, the family member, a friend, whomever calls us and puts us on alert that they have a loved one who is in need of psychological care and either is afraid to ask for it, doesn't want to tell their upper command for fear of their professional military career coming to an end, or just need that little push to get into counseling. When they call us, we are able to connect them within less than 24 hours and within 5 to 10 miles of where they live with a counselor or psychiatrist that is trained in PTSD and suicide prevention. Thank you. Thank you. To date, we have provided over 3,400 hours of counseling services to military veterans. Last year alone, we have what's called a vet peer program, where veterans are allowed to counsel each other. Most of the times we found out that they would rather talk to someone who's worn the same helmet or the same boots as they have on the battlefield. And that is one of the ways that we have immediate contact with the veterans in need or the family members in need when they contact us. In that program that we launched, on average, last year, we spent 4.5 hours every day counseling military veterans in South Carolina and surrounding states. I received a call on the family member side that we also treat last April. It was from a sister who said, I got your brochure at USC. I know you're partnered with them in their military program, social work program, and you know, I just lost my brother to suicide 2 months ago, and he served in the Marine Corps, and I'm worried about his friend who's in help right now. He left and hasn't come back, and I don't know what to do. And I said, well, thank you for your call. I said, go ahead and give me his phone number and contact information, and let me go ahead and get a vet peer out to make contact with him. And she said, no, I can't do that. And I said, what do you mean you can't do that? I said, what is stopping you from doing that? She said, I just don't want him to never talk to me again. I said, you just told me that your brother took his own life 2 months ago, and you didn't know about it, and you wish somebody had helped him. May I please have his contact information? She gave it to us. Our vet peer found that other veteran an inch away from taking his own life that day. Actually went to the location. That's one way we've saved lives. Being a suicide survivor, or a survivor of suicide, it's a roller coaster journey that I found myself being numb. One day a news reporter asked me, Anna, what do you think when you see this photo of your brother? I said, well, I think about how many other people are struggling just as badly as he is, and what it takes to get them help. And he said, what do you feel when you look at this photo of your brother? For the first time since I had been doing interviews and been asked questions, I didn't have an answer. I realized that I was numb, that the smile on my face, I really didn't feel internally, that if I got angry or I was really happy or excited, I really didn't feel it. And at that point, I knew that I could relate to post-traumatic stress and our military veterans in a small way from the tragic experience of my brother taking his own life. It wasn't until I went to a speaking engagement in the upstate that a veteran came up to me and said, Anna, it's an honor to meet you. I'm so glad to meet you. Thank you for what you're doing. I want you to know that if my wife didn't walk in and hand me your brochure that she got at an event when she was out, I had a gun to my head, and my 3 children were going to be without a father, and my wife was going to be without a husband that second. That was the one life that I talked about on WIS-TV that I wanted to save or impact. And from that moment on, I was able to feel the smile. I was able to feel all the different emotions that we have as humans. Suicide, the first step to suicide is taking the person seriously. The second is knowing where to get help and knowing how to talk to them. That's what we do at Hidden Wounds, is train family members, the community, about awareness on PTSD and suicide prevention. 19 veterans each day in the United States take their own life. We have more military veterans die on American soil than we did on the battlefield in the Iraq and Afghanistan war. It can't happen. Hidden Wounds is doing our part, and we invite you and welcome you to join us in getting in the fight. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, And all the military veterans need to know is that somebody cares and that somebody's willing to stand beside them to get them help. 1 in every 4 military struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder. 60% of incarcerated veterans have PTSD, and most of the time it's their actions that they do when they snap and black out and commit a crime that land them in jail for 5 or 10 years after they just got back from serving 2 or 3 tours of duty in Iraq or Afghanistan. So I'm leaving today hoping that you will educate yourself, look up hidden wounds, get involved, and thank all of our military service personnel, veteran or not. And I should, if the lights were on, or let's have them stand up if they're in the room. I've seen some Navy and Marine plates. If you served in the military or now serving, would you stand? Thank you all for your service, and thank each of you here today for coming out and giving us your time and attention. It's a privilege to be part of TEDx and get in the fight with hidden wounds. Thank you.